Okay, now for the second part of the video. This is an illustration of some issues with creating graphs. Keep in mind, if you run into trouble, save your spreadsheet and send it to me so I can puzzle it out. Open the file, Creating Excel Charts Examples. Make sure you start on the far left column sheet. On this sheet, I have shown examples of some raw data, and there are summaries in bold and green shading. The data here is in the form of scores for ratings, of percentages for the male and female, and the number of categories for the age groups. The next sheet shows these in a simplified form. I have put in data from some types of evaluation we will use later in the semester. Next, see how I have drawn a box, then created the charts. Look over on the right side of the sheet. I have selected pie chart for this type of chart. No. Data that is in a pie chart must be parts of one whole. For example, of all the students in a school, some use a library and some do not. Student body is one whole. Users and non-users are parts of it. In list checking, we have one list of books. One library owns some of them, and another library owns some of them. The two collections are not part of the same whole. It's a myth. These 80 and 20 does add up to 100%, but it is not one single 100%. The moral of this story is, when in doubt, use a column chart. Do not use a pie chart unless you are really sure about the whole and the parts. Quick, remember, see, this is a legend that is the same as the title. You would delete the legend. Bleep. All right. Draw chart 2. This is score data. This is a strength test. You'll learn more about this later in the semester. Keep an eye on the font size. If it needs to be bigger, select the axis, format the axis, and then on the font, eventually, you can change the font size. Next, draw chart 3. What's wrong with the top graph? The scale of the scores. They go from 1 to 5, not 0 to 5. The lower chart is correct. Parts of a whole. Let's show you how to get those data labels. We click this, click the data labels. That's the series. Control click. We say format data labels, eventually, and then data labels, and we choose what we want. We can have a category name, percentage, or value. Let's uncheck percentage. Okay, female 6, male 4. Okay. I always want these labels to be on the outside. The default is on the inside, and that becomes very hard to read. Draw chart 4. This is a reminder of 2 really important steps. One is to remove the legend if you have only one color. It is unnecessary. Bleep. Then in the lower one, a reminder of the steps to move the chart to its own sheet. In More Problems, I show you some ways to get into trouble. Let's go at the top. First of all, don't ever have a scale that goes from negative to positive. It is very difficult to graph. Here you can barely read, tic-tac-toe. For the too much in one graph score, here, look at the survey respondents' line graph. It makes no conceptual sense to have male and female on the same graph as the percent of respondents who live in the particular townships. Also, never use a line graph for this kind of data. For the next table, Percentage default. This is a common Excel problem. The graph for that is over here where it says in favor of. Look at this chart. It goes to 120%. Excel defaults to having the top of a y-axis, this vertical one, be a bit above the highest mark. But that makes no sense. Let's change the scale. Format axis, maximum 1. Percentages should go always from 0 to 1. Not many people want live music, but a lot of people want the wireless internet. Now for numbers same size. We have 2 examples of this, here and here. In both places, you cannot see librarians because it is simply impossible to graph those poor 4 or 8 librarians on the same thing. Why do these look different? I'll show you this. Up here it says format. No, not format. Chart layout. Charts. Okay, switch plot. You can kind of play around with which one goes in the legend and which one goes along the axis. There we have a simple number of chart made into one sheet. Same with average of CLC holdings. Okay, let me scoot over a little bit. Ratings. All right. Now, I would like to insert a text box, but for some reason, something happened so that I cannot insert a text box. It used to be a function, and if you have a Word doc, if you have a Windows machine, you may still be able to do it, but this is a really cheating way of doing it. This happens to be a text box. I'm going to do insert text box. Okay, that's a text box. And I'm going to select that text box and I'm going to copy it. And I'm going to paste it in here. There it is. And now I can move it around. Once it exists, I can move it around. Which is kind of silly. But I put these text boxes here so that the reader of this survey doesn't have to refer to the copy of the survey. They can see that 1 is poor and 5 is excellent. On the final sheet, this is an example of a real chart from a real journal article. And there's a citation. If you want to have some fun, send me your guesses as to the errors on this chart. This is a screenshot from the PDF of the article. Thank you.